Hi YouTube, AC Dodd here again, and today I've got something for you a little bit different. We're going to be doing a battery rebuild on the Milwaukee M18 battery. Okay, just before we start the main feature here, I just want to say a safety hint that if you're not well versed in working with batteries, especially lithium ion, then be very careful or get someone else to do this for you, because if you have an incident with one of these battery packs and cells, it doesn't usually end well. So my advice to you is, this video is provided to show you what I do. If you copy anything I do in this video, it is very much at your own risk. So if you're like me, you might have some power tools. I use the cordless range from Milwaukee, and these are the batteries. This is the M18 battery that platform takes. They make M18 and they make the M12 range. The M18 is effectively 5 cells in series, and this particular battery pack is 2 rows of 5 cells, so there's 10 cells in there, making up a nominal 18 volt battery pack, and as you can see on the side there, it says 3 amp hour. Now if you've had tools for a while, batteries wear out. Okay, so normally you just go and buy a new battery, and that's absolutely fine. You can do that, but if you have the tools and the time and some know-how, and you already have some spare cells, you can actually repair your own. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is show how I go about reselling an older battery pack, and also in the process of reselling, make it bigger. So this is only 3 amp hour, and this is an older battery pack. So if we look at the date on this one, that's dated 19, so that's 5 years old. I can assure you is very dead, so we're not going to test that. I already know, because I bought a batch of batteries a few years ago. When I say a batch, I bought a job lot of dead batteries, which were factory returns that never got returned back to the factory. So these are all very lucky to get these. These are all very good condition cases. It's just the battery cells inside, for whatever reason, have ceased to function. So you know, I'm going to get comments about, oh, we can revive those. Trust me, this is the last of the batteries that I'm coming around to rebuild. These aren't revivable because they're just past it. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this one is do a complete resell, and then I'm going to show you how to do that. So you have to ask yourself the question, is it actually worth doing? Well, I can answer that, and the answer is, if you already have the cells and the tools, then it is actually worth doing, and it is actually cheaper than buying a complete new battery. And there's benefits to that, in as much as you're not filling landfill, etc. And also you are recycling, because you take the old cells and you take them down and get them handed in at your local recycling centre. And you can also do what I've done here, which is take the opportunity to upgrade the pack. So as you can see, I've blacked out that one. This used to be a 4 amp hour battery pack, and I've now made it a 5 amp hour battery pack. And you can see it's got my initials on there, etc. But that works just as well as a factory one. I've got all the details on it when I resold it, etc., so I know what's going on. I also put some details on the bottom when I resold it, what the internal resistance was, so I can track that in use. So the point is it worth doing, and do they perform well? Yeah, absolutely. So these are 2 that I've resold, and I've used a particular cell which I got from Cell Supply. And these cells that I use in these are effectively an EVE cell, 2.5 amp hour. So this is the EVE 25P. It's a budget cell. So does it perform as well as the original Samsung 25R that is found in these originally, 5 amp hour ones? No. But it performs a close second, and is very very cost effective on the pocket. So if you want to use these batteries in extreme applications, there's no point when you can use the Milwaukee high output versions anyway. But in the case of where you want to run normal loads, drill normal holes, you know, run normal grinders and things like that, then these work out perfectly well. I use these in particular in my own work. These are a couple of battery packs that I upgraded from 4s to 5 amp hours, and I use these to run my lighting when I'm on the road doing my tuning. And these work just as well as the original factory ones. So just to make it clear, the idea about this is to change the cells in this pack, which is our dead one, and we're going to put the 2.5 amp hour cells in there and turn this into a 5 amp hour battery pack, because you effectively get 2 rows of 5. Each row is 2.5 amp hour, so 2 rows make 5 amp hour. And the original cells in here are 1.5 amp hour, which was a lot more common many years ago when these first come out. So it's a good upgrade. As you can see, they use the same size casing, so it's very straightforward to just take the cells out and put the high current, high amperage ones in, high amp hour ones in, high capacity, whatever you want to call it, to get some more runtime. In terms of the batteries you need to use, you can't just use any type of battery here. You have to use a high current, high discharge cell. That is, unless you're going to only use the battery pack for low current loads or light duty loads. But in terms of what these can be used for, running grinders and great big power hungry devices, you absolutely need these high discharge rate cells. So these are the 20 amp discharge, I believe. Included here is the spec sheet. So you can see the details. As I say, I got these from Cell Supply. I think they was just a little bit over 200, over £2 each, delivered with the taxes and the shipping included. First thing you want to do before taking it apart is you never assume these things are dead. There might be a couple of good cells in there. So if you noticed, I've put a towel down so I can insulate myself from the metal top that's on my bench. I've already taken the screws out, so there's no screws in this one, but we'll just take the top off, put that to one side, and then you can have a look at the pack inside. You can see this is a nice genuine Milwaukee pack. Now if you was opening that for the first time, you'd obviously inspect all the connections, look for any damage, any loose terminals, etc., loose connections, any broken spot welds. But in this case, I've already done that. So let's take that out of the inside, put that to one side, and then we can see the battery pack on the inside. This is a genuine original with blue cells, 1.5 amp hour batteries. Now, if you were to have a metal bench and put this down, this is not going to end well. So, as I say, the most important thing when you're working on these is to be very, very careful of shorting things out. These are low resistance cells, in low internal resistance cells. So if there's any good ones in there, you'll either have a small explosion or a fire on your hands pretty quick if you short these out. So take heed and be very, very vigilant as to what you're doing. So pressing the battery test there, I'll get nothing. So I've already been through this and I believe that there's no good cells, but we'll do that just to show you. So just connecting that up there, we can see that I've got 0.15 volts and 72 milliohms of resistance, which is pretty poor. So we definitely know we've got a problem. So we'll just go up and test each one, and we can see we've got no volts there, no volts there, no volts there, and we've got basically all the voltage on the end. See, 0.15. and no volts there. So we've got a properly dead pack. So I'm going to take the cells out, arrange for them to be taken to the local recycling centre, and then we'll fit the new ones. So the first things I'll do here is when you take these out, you want to identify where the positive and negative is. So that's where the positive goes to the battery management board, and obviously this side is the negative. So the first thing I do is to slide your cutters in and just snip off and break the connections. So work your way through taking those connections off, and do the positive side next, so the pack is isolated from the board. And then what you can do is just work your way through and take the cells out. Whilst you're cutting these, you want to be very, very careful on the positive end that when you put the cutters in, that your cutter tip doesn't connect the positive connection to the outer rim, okay, which is under that white band. If you do that and it's a good cell, you're going to have yourself a quite nasty experience, and possibly the chance of a fire or a cell explosion. So be very, very careful when you put those in that you lift before you cut, so that the cutter doesn't touch the battery, like so. Now, of course, there is the most important thing you should be doing before taking these apart is to actually discharge them. So if there are any charged cells, then put a small load on them to actually discharge them fully. And then that will make the pack safe completely when you come to take it apart. It's also a good idea that when you're taking these tags off, to make sure that these tags are taken off out of the way, even though you're going to dispose of these, so they don't hurt you while you're taking them apart. Of course, you can wear gloves, but I like to pull them off so that they don't hurt you, and then use a pair of pliers to carefully bend the tags out of the way to give you some more operating room. And these could all be bent back when they come into reconnection later. So when you get to the stage where you've got a couple of cells that are completely disconnected, you can push them out. So I'll just use the butt end of a pen and then put them on and give them a good hard push. Now, sometimes these can be quite stuck depending on how hot they've got when they've been operating. But as you can see, that pair of cells has pushed out nicely. So we can just slide those out, separate the cells, and take the cell separator and keep that, because you'll need that when we repack. Just in case you're interested in see what cells were in the original there, this is a 3 amp hour pack. So you've got the INR 18650 from Samsung, and it's the 15M, which is a very good cell, but only 1.5 amp hours. So we're going to replace that with the EVE 25Ps and take this pack up to 5 amp hour. So systematically work your way down the pack like I'm doing there, removing the batteries. Obviously, when you get to the center, you'll get the temperature sensor on the board. That should stay in place, but sometimes when you pull the cells out, the cells will pull that out. But don't worry, you can easily put it back into position once the new cells are in. As I say, work your way down. You can see what I've done is I've snipped the tabs off. At some point when we come to put this back together later on, there'll be some more work on these to straighten them all up and make them ready to accept the new cells. Keep your workbench clear when you're pulling off all the tabs, because all that nickel strip will short out any circuitry or batteries that you happen to lay down on them if that's in the wrong place. Once your battery cells are all removed, you end up with a nice empty case like that. So that's all ready to receive the new batteries. But first, you'll need to go through and process these and take any bends and sharp edges off them so they're ready to receive the new cells and be connected correctly to the new batteries. So these are all the cells that were removed from that battery pack. A lot of these are showing completely 0 volts, so nothing in them whatsoever. So a quick thing that you've got to think about is what's caused that. If they're completely flat, there may be a fault with the BMS board that's on there. So the way I'm going to do this is when I put the new cells in, I'll see if it operates. And then I'll also see if the board is discharging the new cells, because a lot of these are down to 0 volts could mean that there is a drain on that board which is causing it to flatten the batteries. So just because you're putting new cells in an old battery pack doesn't mean to say that you've actually solved the problem. What you've got to do with that carcass is I don't know what's caused it to go wrong in the first place, whether there was a misuse which caused the batteries to go wrong, whether they were faulty batteries, or there's a fault on that board which is causing the batteries to go flat and there was nothing wrong with them in the first place. So bear that in mind, because when I do this rebuild, I'm not going to be changing that board unless I have to. So I'm going to put the new cells in it, see if it reports for duty, and also do a discharge test to make sure, leave it sat for a while and see if it discharges on its own, because if it does, then it's going to need a new board. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that. So stick around for part 2 when we get to connect up the battery packs. And as ever, please like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you soon.